Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Texans Probe. We're kind of starting with the lives. We started with it last episode. I know that was a little bit ago because we hadn't had that much going on, but now with free agency starting, trying to ramp back up. Today we're just going to kind of discuss, moves that the Texans have already made, and then discuss possible targets with free agency starting. I guess technically Wednesday, but the tampering period starts Monday, tomorrow at I want to say 11 our time, or something like that. So Texans are probably going to make some moves here coming up soon. And how you feeling, Drew? How you feeling so far? We got the Christian Kirk trade and the Shaq Mason cut. So how we feeling?
Feeling good. I think that the best way to put the Christian Kirk trade was probably like smart. It's not like flashy per se. It doesn't cost too much in terms of what they gave up. Probably won't cost too much based on the wide receiver market in terms of contract. Though I do expect him to be extended to kind of either stretch out the salary cap or make it work. I know that the salary cap situation to me looked bad. Like it looked really. It's okay. We have
Yeah.
what $4 million in cap space. Well, that doesn't really make much sense. So how is that going to work? How are you going to have a draft class with that much salary cap? But it just always kind of seems to work out doing little things. I mean, they got money from Nico Collins restructure. They're gonna get money next year from cutting Shaq Mason, and that needed to happen. I said it
Yep.
online. I said it before on here that he was the one guy that I wasn't really sure had anything to do with scheme. Had nothing to do with Strasser or Slowick. Shaq Mason. I think I don't. You didn't think he had the best 2023 season. I thought he had a good
Yeah, I wasn't
2023
super high on
season.
him.
Right. So you're drawing him, but he was a complete liability in 2024 based on skill set,
Oh
one-on-one
yeah.
matchups, and then you had the stunts coming in that they allowed in terms of miscommunication and whatnot. But he was someone who got dominated. You could watch it on tape, and it's just like, oh, are you? It's like frustrating, hard to watch type stuff, and that can't happen for an offensive lineman. That can happen for pass rushers, receivers on a couple routes, but offensive linemen can't lose reps at all, or it ruins the play. And
Yeah.
there were many plays where, now, frankly, of course, other guys messed up on the same play too because of the offensive line. But still, no. Look, Shaq Mason, he didn't look strong. His base looked kind of wide, and he's a shorter guy too. His base was
Yeah.
wide, and
Yeah.
even then didn't really have the right, hand placement with his punches, and didn't seem very strong. He doesn't have the lateral agility to pull as we saw, and a good guards pull. Remember, good guards pull, and he was not able to pull,
That
and
was yeah.
it had to be happen. Now, obviously, I'm not saying the Texans are going to go out and get a superstar guard to replace him, but frankly, that's not what they need. They need someone that's just
No.
formidable, really, and then also get competition behind him. I guess then also you still have Patterson and Scruggs, more so Scruggs to just kind of potentially start at guard in a competition battle. We'll see what happens there. But I think the reports make a lot of sense in terms of like they'll sign one in free agency. We don't know where they'll draft one, but they'll draft one to replace Shaq
For
Mason.
sure. Um, you know, the Texans, like you said, they pretty much had to make the Shaq Mason move. I get that, maybe the Texans they talk about they wanted to keep him for competition. I know that was John Alexander's opinion that he put. He's not good. Like we can be honest about that. I'll take, not that it necessarily helps. I know it's a post June 1st cut. But
Yeah,
you talk about that can sign draft players, that can help extend Stingley. Like
yeah,
that's money is still very valuable, and we see it all the time, multiple off seasons now, where the Texans will make crucial moves, kind of in training camp. 2023, you want to go back. George Fant was a big signing that they made during training camp, which that money, can come from stuff like that, and he really kind of saved their season when their tackles were hurt. And then 2024, you had Cam Akers, who didn't really do a lot for the Texans, but you get a seventh round pick, which you then flip for Christian Kirk, which ends up being pretty valuable for you. So stuff like that later on in the offseason still matters. People are going to
absolutely.
be upset, I'm sure, tomorrow when the Texans probably don't get, top linemen. Right? We probably won't get Will Fries, and people are going to lose it. But that's just not what they're really in the market for because Will Fries is probably going to go to a team that has a ton of salary cap and can spend that type of money and overpay for him. I've seen him talk to like Jacksonville. Like Jacksonville has the money because they've cut all these guys. Um, so the Texans probably are more in the market for a guy like Kevin Zeitler or a guy like Macari, I think from Baltimore. I think that's how you say his name. He's a guy they
Yeah.
could be in the market for. Maybe James Daniels if he's kind of somewhat in that range. That's probably the
Right.
high end for me. That would be my favorite, but
Yeah.
he may be a little bit outpriced for them. You could see a guy like Brandon Sheriff, kind of a
Yeah.
veteran, someone like that. That not necessarily that has to be a long term answer for the Texans, but could just
Yeah.
start for this season, which was that was the idea with Shaq Mason. It
Yeah.
just didn't really work out. It kind of worked out because he was okay in 2023. I wasn't as high on him as you were, but I thought he was okay in 2023. So,
Yeah.
that you could kind of do that again. Just don't extend the guy.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to all the. I love the like intercourse going in like the comment section right now.
Yeah,
We'll answer
yeah,
all
yeah.
the questions.
We'll get to all
Yeah,
this,
Brandon, very
and then
funny. I agree. But what I will say is there is like two different ways you could go about it in free agency because you talk about Brandon Sheriff. So if they truly just want to sign one in free agency and draft one, okay, then yeah, you would get a veteran guy that you just
yeah,
know is formidable. Now we saw an older guy in Shaq Mason fall off a cliff, if you will. Maybe I don't know. Um, I'm not so sure. I'd be concerned about the other guys falling off a cliff. But
yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
could
I
go
agree.
with Brandon Sheriff, or you could go with Macari, experience gap power scheme, or you go
Yeah,
with
and
James
he's a younger
Daniels.
guy too. He's
Yeah,
only
a
27,
younger guy
28.
too.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I was gonna say James Daniels to me is by far the highest upside guy
I
who
completely agree.
just happens to be cheaper because he tore his ACL. It's
Yeah,
really
I
as
completely
simple as
agree.
that. If he played the entire season, he could potentially
You're talking 12 million
up
plus
there.
a
I'm not
year.
saying he would
Yeah,
have graded
on a
out.
bigger.
Will Fries graded out really
Yeah,
well,
really. And he got hurt
really
mid
well, and
season. So
that's why he's going to get
it,
money.
yeah, yeah. Um, you know, I think with those guys, I think Daniels is a realistic option because there are um player like I think that is a realistic option because, like you said, the injury, and he's kind of been up and down. He's been good for most teams, but I think when he originally went to Pittsburgh, they kind of ran more zone, and he's not that great at it. He's more of a he can pull a little bit. He's somewhat athletic, but he's more of a downhill guy. Um, and that's kind of what the Texans are looking for at this point, in my opinion. I think
Yeah,
that's what you're looking for. I think you're going to go more gap. And if you want to run more zone, you could always play Juice Scruggs at guard, right guard. I think he's able to do that type of stuff, but the problem is he lacks the power. So not really able to do that. But there's a lot of options at guard. If you want to go to the lower end too, there's Will Hernandez. There's Evan Brown, who I liked. Evan Brown was actually one of my targets at the trade deadline. I know people don't really talk about him because he's not like a big name, but he's played multiple different schemes. He was pretty solid for Arizona this year. He's played every spot on the interior offensive line, and he's only 28 or 27, 28. So he would be an option that would probably be under 5 million a year.
really. I see. I think that someone like that could have a big market, and that he would just be like out of the price range. Frankly.
I think he hasn't played well enough to be out of
Oh,
the price range
okay.
because he's kind of been a guy. This was really his first season, like being a full time starter because he was in Detroit for a while as kind of like a reserve
Oh,
backup, and he was fine. And then in Arizona this year, he wasn't like exceptional. I think he rated out with like a 63. He was above. He was pretty much average for them. But I think he's an interesting player because he probably would be like 5, 6 mil. He definitely would be in the range. He's from Texas. Um, I think he'd be an interesting piece. Even if you would get, if you want to talk about you get Zeitler, and then you could just sign Brown as another piece that could play kind of anywhere on this line. Like I said, he played center, he's played right guard, he's played left guard. His best season was at left guard, which was this past season. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options out there
yeah, and it's good to know like that they'll at least try to get someone in this
for
market.
sure.
I wasn't necessarily if they were going to keep Shaq Mason, if they were going to give Juice Scruggs another chance. I wasn't necessarily convinced that they were really going to do anything with the
Yeah,
offensive
yeah, yeah.
line. But now that they got rid of Shaq Mason, I would say there's a good chance that they, like you said, they could even sign two guys in free agency, just because you're not so sure that you just really didn't like the product on the field, and it's very clear that they didn't like the product on the field.
Absolutely, and you talk about uh, really the two main reporters that the Texans have that Aaron Wilson and John Alexander. They've both
Yeah,
said that the Texans plan on signing and drafting a guard. Like they are going to address guard.
yeah,
And even today,
it's gonna
in
happen.
John
Yeah,
Alexander's article, he basically said that there's going to be two new guards, and the right tackle is between Titus and Fisher. Like Titus more than likely will not play. He won't play guard, I don't think. And there's a possibility that
yeah,
Titus
and
just wasn't
honestly,
on this
like,
team next year. That's a realistic, like
yeah,
that's a very real possibility that he just doesn't. He just gets
yeah,
cut.
he could be cut, he could be traded early
Yeah,
in the offseason. I don't think like they're simply just all right. Your contract does not allow you to play guard
no,
necessarily,
no, and I don't,
and
and
we
I don't
have
know
Blake
why he
Fisher
would. I don't
who
know why he
can
would.
do.
Why to renegotiate
Why would he even
deal?
want? Yeah, he wouldn't even want to play guard anymore. Like at this point, he's put enough on tape to at least get a chance to start for another team at right
Absolutely.
tackle.
Yeah,
But I think Blake Fisher makes a ton of sense in a duo and gap scheme, just based on he's got the lower body, he's got the aggressive upper body punch that you want in the run game. Like we will work on the pass blocking, and I think that he did. Sometimes that is a little bit of just a comfort thing. Like we,
yeah, yeah, for
some of his
sure.
reps, he's just getting blown by.
Yeah,
He's getting blown
for
by,
sure.
getting overwhelmed. Okay,
And
you just need to
he
get
was
more
a guy that
comfortable. He
didn't
did.
play a ton in college. Like he was a guy that you were drafting to be a project. He wasn't necessarily supposed to start year one, but the line was such a disaster. He got forced into a role, and he was okay. Like he wasn't terrible down the stretch this year. He got beat by Chris Jones in the playoff game. Like he had bad moments, but as a whole, the whole line had bad moments. Like throughout this whole season, it wasn't just him. There you go, Stressens. We got 27 mil and we got 30 mil. Uh, Drew's getting
I'm
the
pushing
Drew's
40
getting the
mil. I heard
DK
that was the
Metcalf
new
contract.
non-offensive
We got to
player.
trade for Drew. Give up a second and give him 30 million a year
Yeah.
to be our second receiver. Here we can go ahead and dive into some
So maybe
comments
bring up the
because
team.
we got some people in here. We got some interesting stuff being talked about here. Let's see if I can. I know my guy Steve. He asked about thoughts on Tyler Booker after the combine because he tested so poorly. We can get into that. I don't care. I really don't care about
I
the
don't care.
testing either.
And we know that Nick Casario doesn't care either.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think that he really I think he said this many times before. He doesn't really factor in too much about the combine numbers and stuff like that.
Bosa will be fine with Mike Eubanks. He's one of the best strength and conditioning coaches. I know some people won't understand that, but we're all in the chat. And Mike Eubanks is a big
Anyways,
character in the chat, so there you go.
yeah. Anyways, it doesn't surprise me about Booker's, I guess what the bench press or
Yeah, he just
the cone, like based on his tape, like I know that he doesn't have like initially strong first punch necessarily. I know that he can come to balance and he can detach and engage and stuff
yeah.
like that. He has good awareness and he's also like okay, yeah, I'm not surprised by the shuttle and the cone and the 40 yard. I
No,
don't even know
yeah.
if he did the 40 yard dash, but he's not the quickest guy. He's not the fastest guy. But he's fluid, and fluidity matters, and awareness matters, and hand placement matters a lot more, and balance matters, and that stuff matters more. At the end of the day, I still wouldn't take him at 25, but he also might be taken by
Yeah,
someone
I think
like
he's
10 or
going to be gone by
15.
25 anyway.
So
So here we go. So De Niro, you said, how do you guys feel about Gray Zabel? I think Drew likes Zabel more than I like Zabel. I do like Zabel a little bit. I would be okay with him. I don't think the Texans are going to draft him personally. I just don't see them going away from their Power Five, Power Four roots. But
yeah,
I do like the
yeah.
versatility that he provides.
Yeah, we actually we don't know for sure, but obviously at the Senior Bowl he was basically just lining up at guard and
Yeah,
center when he was doing one-on-ones, and I'm not really concerned about him as a pass protector, which is great. And then as a run blocker, I think he's a lot of upside. I think that he's got the athleticism. I think he's got a little bit more. I mean, it's kind of a grit thing. Yeah, it's kind of
yeah.
like you can just kind of tell that he engages on his blocks for a little bit longer than most guys on tape. And if I see that's good. That's a green flag, and that's something that matters. And I know, he played at North Dakota State. and all
His
that.
film is very nice
I
though. Like
totally get the
they play some
yeah,
decent teams, and his film's good. Like
yeah,
he's a
and
good player.
right. They play
Yeah,
Colorado. I
I
think
yeah,
I
I watched
watched.
his game against
Think
Colorado.
I
He
think I
played very
watched.
well
Yeah,
against Colorado.
right. And Colorado, by the way, has two good edges. At least one good
Mhm.
well, not that it matters. They have two good edges.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
point.
He played tackle,
BJ
so he's
Green
going against
is
the
can
edges
stop
there.
the
So,
run. Right. He's going against yeah, he's going against the
yeah,
edges. And BJ Green's a good run defender, and I didn't see him really have any impact as a run defender when Zabel was going up against Colorado. So really it's little things like that when you go up against the power forward, it's like, okay, all right, you pass the eye test, and then he also passes like, I don't know, the upside test if you can tell that he will be able to improve and be more than an average to above average. Because to me, above average is second round. A formidable starter is third round. I see the potential enough to say that he is a late first round grade because he has upside and consistency in his game with the athleticism.
yeah, and my, I for people that follow me, I think y'all know who like my guy at guard is. I love Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. I'm a big fan of him. Not maybe not at 25. I would probably look to trade back to get him, but I really like the versatility he provides. I think he's got all the tools to be one of the best guards in football. Like I think if you want to go off of the safe pick, Booker's probably a safer prospect. He's more technically refined, and he just I think he'd be more of an immediate starter. But Donovan Jackson is one of my guys in this draft. I think he fits what the Texans want to do. And, there's already a connection there if you want to go with the connection to Ohio State, which they clearly value with,
Yeah.
they drafted Stover last year. And here, we can just talk about this because I know the chat's been talking about it. DK Metcalf, I would be, I don't think that'll happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that'll happen. I don't think it makes sense for the Texans. I think
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You're trading for a guy that would basically play the Nico role, but he's worse than Nico, and would want more money than Nico's getting paid. It doesn't make sense.
What I will say, hypothetically, you could trade a second rounder. You could draft Donovan
Mhm.
Jackson in the first round. You could put him at guard. You could eventually ship Tunsil off
Tackle, yeah.
to move Jackson to tackle. Get that. So then you have plenty of salary for DK. I love Jackson's tape at
Yeah.
tackle.
Yes, yeah.
He barely allowed any pressures at all in the college football playoff. Didn't really allow any pressures as a guard.
No, yeah, he's very solid.
So I think that he just kind of passed the eye test of it's going to be a very good play, a very good player. And so if you were to move off of Tunsil, and they probably could have if they were going to keep him long term. I've seen this too. Like they probably would have
Yeah,
restructured his contract by
I don't
now.
think Tunsil's in the
They
long
haven't.
term plans. If you want to talk, like Casilio talks about these
I think it's just
2 year
more years, maybe.
windows that he works
Yeah.
in. I do think like Tunsil will be here next season. He'll be the left tackle next season. The season after, he'll probably be here still. But long term, you want to talk about 3 years in the future. I don't think Tunsil's the left tackle on this team.
Yeah.
Not that
Sure.
that's a bad thing. Like I think Tunsil's a better player than people give him credit for. I don't think he should be moved just like to get off of him. Um, but I think the thing with Tunsil is you're gonna have to pay a lot of these guys long term, and someone's gonna have to take the bite the
Yeah.
bullet for it, and it's probably Tunsil. He's probably gonna be
And
the
it's
guy.
good for him to bite the bullet because I didn't even think about this. You would genuinely get just good value in a trade
Yeah,
for him. As
he would
where
still be a
other
valuable
guys are
player.
just you're just
Absolutely.
cutting them. You're just cutting them for cap space. If you trade Laramie Tunsil, I'm pretty sure you get a first round pick and more. And then okay, he falls off in 2 or 3 years after that. You don't feel
Yeah.
too bad about it because he only lasted around 2 or 3 more years in
Yep.
the league. As where if you have Donovan Jackson, or there's other options that they
Kelvin
could do in the
Banks
future.
is another one out
Like,
there.
you could hypothetically draft your Tunsil replacement this year, and
Yeah, down the
I wouldn't
line.
be very
Yeah.
mad about it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you got the new offensive coordinator. You got maybe you're more confident in the offense just as a whole. You're not too worried about really filling holes. You're just generally focused on making sure, like as Nick Casario knows, being on the Patriots, being a team to reckon with for years and
Yeah,
years and years and years
absolutely.
to come. So it would be a very safe thing to do. Banks, pretty safe pick. Jackson, safe pick. Booker, somewhat safe pick, but you don't have positional
Yeah.
flexibility there. So there's definitely different ways you go about it, and of course, also Banks and Jackson being the power forward guys, like that makes them very
Yeah.
possible. I just would hope that they would get some value for Laramie Tunsil at some point down the
Yeah,
line.
agreed.
Otherwise, it doesn't really make
And
sense.
like Tunsil should not be traded this offseason. I get like people like
No,
Tunsil
no,
needs to stay for at least one more season. Maybe if it works
yeah,
out this season, and then you want to move him because your line played better. Um, that I'm cool with that. But with how bad the line played this season, you cannot justify trading your best lineman who was good last year. People want to talk about the run blocking. I don't think he's a bad run blocker. Um, and he's one of the best pass protection. Yeah, I completely agree with De Niro here. Like one or two more seasons, and then you move off. I think that
yeah.
that is the right way to go about this.
That's good. Like that's a good
Yeah,
process as an
absolutely.
organization. I hope they do it. If they don't do it, I won't be like
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
upset
Tunsil, I
because
still think
you
in
just want to
two.
maybe he's here for 4 years. And it's okay. He was here for 4 years, retires a Texan.
Yeah,
Cool,
and
great.
I
You were
do
here for
think
a long
3 years,
time.
Tunsil's still going to be a good player. Like I don't think that's
Yeah,
like he's still going to be a
yeah.
very good player because he.
How old is Trent Williams?
Yeah,
36,
and you want to
37.
talk
I
about
mean, like,
physicality? Like Tunsil does not have the physicality level. Like he's not getting in and mixing it up with these people like Trent Williams is. He's going
yeah.
to have more longevity than Trent Williams. Um,
Andrew Whitworth played till he was like
yeah,
40 and was genuinely solid as a pass blocker. I mean, that's the exact kind of thing we're looking at here with Larry Tunsil. If he retires a Texan, that's great because the Texans need more players in their franchise to be there for a long time and retire as a Texan instead of going off to Jacksonville or Tennessee or some stupid shit like
yeah,
that. I mean,
yeah, 100%.
at some point.
And there's like we talked about, there's a lot of good free agency options. We're kind of talking draft now, so there's a lot of good draft options. Like the Texans are in a very good spot now. They've set themselves up to enter free agency in a good spot. You have your second or third receiver, however you want to look at Christian Kirk. I think he's a good second receiver. I know people are kind of iffy on it. I think
Yeah.
he can be a second receiver. He
He gets
basically
1,000 yards. Isn't
yeah,
that like
he
what you look
basically
for in
can
a second
do what
receiver?
Stephon Diggs did last season for the Texans. Like that is basically the role he's going to play. He can do that very well. He's more explosive than Stephon Diggs. Um,
He definitely
so
is.
like that type of stuff he can do. And you want to look at the guys that have like the highest slot percentage. There's like five better than him. He's a top 10 slot in the NFL, pretty easily. So very good
Yeah.
player.
And then I agree he likes the 2-year rental deals, and that's not a bad process to go through. I think that, we're talking about like we have the core.
Mhm.
So there's definitely going to be some more 1 to 2 year deals. I think, and we'll stay on free agency here. One of them is definitely going to be Sheldon
Yeah,
Rankins. He's
yeah,
probably
yeah.
going to get a 1 to 2 year deal to be with the Texans. Eric Murray is probably going to get a 1 to 2 year deal to come back to the Texans. Trying to think of other players that you might see. I mean, maybe a backup corner might get 1 to 2 year deal, and that's the right thing to do. And because they don't, like D'Amico said, the combine, you don't necessarily want to just draft for need. You'll probably, and I like it that they'll just draft for best player available, and
For sure.
I think that allows you to just that, and then that's why you would do the 1 to 2 year deals in free agency, and that's why we've seen this the entire Nick Cassera era. It makes a lot more sense now when you actually have talent on the roster. That's where when we were signing, 30 guys every
Yeah, yeah,
offseason.
for sure.
The Desmond Kings, the Tavier Thomases as spot starters and whatnot. I mean,
Yeah, and this
that's
last
just
offseason
kind of
was a
what's
perfect
happening.
example of some working, some didn't work, right? And that's part of it. You want to go through the guys that worked. Tim Settle worked out excellent. You have him you have him next year on like what 3 million, $4 million or whatever it was. Like it was a really cheap
Hallelujah.
deal, and that worked out really well. I'd say Mario Edwards worked
Yeah.
out really well. I mean, he may be a guy that comes back. Who are some other guys that worked out? I'm trying to think. I mean, Folu, he was cool when he was healthy, right? He just wasn't able to really stay healthy. You want to talk about 2 year deals? Danico Autry, loved the way he played when he was healthy, or not healthy when he came off the suspension. I thought, and you want to go during the season, Irv Smith was excellent throughout the end of that season. Like he was huge for this team, and he was a
No
1 year
doubt.
deal. And then guys that didn't work, Jeff Okuda didn't work, CJ Henderson didn't work. And I guess Derek Barnett. I was about to say that because I was just thinking that Derek Barnett was a re-signing for 1 year, what $4 million, and worked out really well. I know that's your guy, Drew.
That guy's got to go start somewhere though. It's
I
like
know, yeah,
getting out of hand. Like the reps that he puts on tape is just like, ooh,
yeah, yeah.
like no lineman had no chance. And in terms of top free
Yep,
agent target,
yeah,
it's been kind of tricky for me to, I don't know, like have a favorite or like have a we need this guy. Like there's not anyone that the Texans
I
need.
agree. Yeah,
I guess you would I would just say probably James Daniels, but also like it was probably Darius Slayton for a little, but then they got Christian Kirk, but it could still kind of be Darius Slayton, even though I think that I think he's got the tape to get a good
yeah,
contract. But there's no one defensively that I'm gonna say is a
yeah. I agree
target,
with you.
frankly.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I'm sure when Eric Murray signs this 1 year, $4 million deal tomorrow, people are gonna freak out. But we'll be excited. I'll be pushed. We'll be
I
pushing the
will
agenda.
be thrilled. I will be
um,
thrilled. You do not want to have a doofus playing backup
yeah,
safety.
yeah. For me, my top free agent target, mine was James Daniels for a long time as well. That I pushed him pretty early on. Like I think even during December, I was pushing James Daniels. But I would say Will Fries, he's probably out of the price range, I think, though, so I'm not going to go with him. I'd probably say Kevin Zeitler. I think that's a fair one. I think he played well last season. And
Yeah.
he's not a long term, he's not a long term fix, but for 1, maybe 2 years, he wouldn't cost a ton either. He could be $7, $8 million over 2 years, probably. I think, because I think there's not a lot of teams that are in the market for a 36 or whatever year old guard. It's just like you have to be a certain level of good to be in the market for that. Like a team like Jacksonville that needs interior offensive line help, they're not really going to go after a guy like that because they're not really trying to win a Super Bowl next season. And it's a different approach to free agency for different teams. So the Texans could probably get a good deal on him.
Yeah, I like the idea of the 1 year older guy because in their market, unfortunately, is different. You can have a very good 2024 season, but if you're 35 or 36, that's actually how old he is or whatever. Unfortunately, no one is going to give you $15 million. You kind of have a certain price range
Yeah,
there,
for sure.
so that would be a very ideal situation. I don't think it's hard to upgrade from Shaq
No,
Mason.
not at all.
So.
Not at all. I mean, Juice Scruggs was an upgrade at right guard, so so I mean,
Yeah, and then also exactly what we're talking about here, Zeitler can
yeah,
also help a young guard to learn to be a pro. That's exactly probably what the Texans are thinking, or why we keep hearing these reports about one free agent, one in the draft, because I don't know if they're going to go with the upside in Daniels, but I think
I would
another guy
love James
is
Daniels.
very
Like that
likely.
is like why we're on the same page with this one. James Daniels would be
Yeah,
awesome. But Zeitler is like a good option as well. Like there's a lot of good options, like we talked about. And we can kind of talk about just the kind of guys from John Alexander's article today. He kind of mentioned some certain guys the Texans could potentially be interested in. Maybe re-signings as well. Obviously, Sheldon Rankins, which we've talked about. I know you. I'm a little higher on Sheldon Rankins because I like his pass rush, but the run defense is bad.
no, that's
Yeah,
it.
the run defense is not
Yeah,
good.
that's fine because we just simply see that we see Kurt Hinish in on first and
Hmm.
second down quite
Yeah,
often. That is that we see Tim settle we saw Tim settle in on third down towards the end of the year, but really he was just in on first and second down at the beginning
yeah,
of the season. So that's where you see a Sean Rankins come in and be the third down guy. I guess people don't think that Edwards is going to come back, or he might be priced more than Rankins. I don't know. I mean, he got suspended.
yeah,
Then his production dropped off a little too. But I it's kind of even for me because Mario Edwards, I didn't have the highest
yeah, yeah.
expectations for him.
He played
He had
well.
really good
He
reps,
played well.
and then Rankins had good reps in 2023. So it could really go either way. But I guess I would just go with the cheaper option at this point.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
trust him to be
yeah,
good.
I agree with you on that. They're both kind of three techs that they're just good pass rushers. That's
Yeah,
pretty much that's what they
yeah,
are.
just good pass rush.
Um,
But Edwards does have some place in the run game. So I guess I don't know. So a little bit more than
yeah,
Rankins, where
yeah.
Rankins was kind of
I think Rankins does have
ducking
more
and
bang.
his
He's
shoulders
got a
being
little bit
moved
more in his
around.
pass rush bag, I think, than Edwards. Um, but
Yeah, he got the spin move. Like
yeah,
he actually
yeah.
is one.
If
He probably has
you
one of
want
the
to
better
watch that,
spin
if you want
moves
to
from
watch
an interior guy.
Rankins, like why you would like Rankins, just go watch the Cincinnati game from last year because he was kicking their ass. Man. That's probably why they signed him. That's why they
Hilarious.
signed him, and it didn't work out. But he
Literally.
he dominated them that game. It was crazy. Um, but I like what Brandon said here as his initiation ritual. Christian Kirk has to say that Trevor Lawrence slid late. I think we can all agree
I
that's
like
what we're
that.
going with here. But
Yeah, and I guess I don't know if he means offense or defense, but in terms of Mauler in the middle, yeah, that's kind of what you need for the offensive line.
mhm,
I think that's why I'm very concerned about when people say, "Oh, Scruggs is just the better lineman. He's going to play." Well, he doesn't really have the traits or attributes to really play. And what I would anticipate would be a power run gap scheme. I just think his hands are a little bit too soft, and so I think that I need to dive into Zeitler and stuff like that to see if he truly still has the power in his hands and stuff like that. But I think that that's probably what they're looking for in terms of an offensive lineman, and we'll find out. We'll
for
definitely find
sure.
out soon.
And I think we haven't even brought him up, but Drew Dahlman was kind of the guy that people connected to the Texans. Like, I would be shocked if he didn't end up as a Chicago Bear at this point. That seems like where he's going to go. It'd be a really good fit. I love what Chicago is doing. Actually, I think they're doing a really good job this offseason so far. Um, but there's a lot that the Texans can do. Puna Ford's been a guy that I feel like
Up to the
people
forward.
talk about
I think
for.
I tweeted about him in like the big 2021,
Yeah, he's been a
like
guy that I
about
know
getting
people have
him on
talked
this
about for the
roster.
longest time.
I mean,
And
it's been too long.
even John Alexander brought up as two potential like other defensive tackle targets. Well, Jonathan Allen was the guy that he said the Texans could be interested in. Um, who got cut recently, and then he named DJ Jones. So he's a former Niners defensive tackle, played under Nico, and then
Yeah.
been with the Broncos, and then BJ Hill was another one.
BJ Hill was a very, very good run
Yeah,
stopper with the Giants when he was there. I don't know how he
good
did
for
with the
Cincinnati for a
Bengals or
while.
whatever.
I don't know if he was good this season, but
Right.
he was productive for them. Um,
So there's definitely like I like how in the interior defensive line free agency, like you see the clear pass rusher specialist, you see the clear run stopping specialist, and they're probably all kind of in similar price ranges. Then you have Milton Williams. So
yeah.
I think it's just kind of pick and choose really. So you can't really go wrong. You trust D'Amico, and I understand that they didn't have a top 50 ranked run defender, and I think that was a little unfair. I think he's probably talking about the PFF
I'm
stat that said Hinish
I'm
was
going to okay.
number one.
I like PFF. I do use PFF. I've talked about this with people. The way PFF grades the Texans defensive tackles, and this has been true for D'Amico his entire defensive coordinator career, is bad because the defensive tackles in this scheme are not necessarily trying to play gaps or trying to get upfield, and you can get beat doing that. Like you see, Baltimore did a good job against us where they beat us doing it. Like it did not work that game, but it's not like Folu was a much better run defender than PFF is giving him credit for. Um,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't put too much stock into PFF grades for defensive tackles for the Texans. I think some other spots it's more valuable, but for this scheme, doesn't really matter. It really does. It really doesn't matter
Right.
what the PFF grades
And
say.
and Streston's like, yeah, I agree. Like the Texans definitely have their one
Yeah.
techs. I think Settle has kind of actually evolved into a versatile.
Mhm.
He actually now can play three tech. He can even play maybe some 4i because he just looks like a much better athlete than he looked like in Buffalo. They have Folu, have Hinish, play the one tech, Edwards the three tech, Danico the three tech. So they do a good job of distinguishing it. Maybe one of these days they'll actually no. I will say this, I don't think that the Texans will ever invest on the interior defensive line. I don't I think they just simply they pick their one tech, they pick their three tech, do it again, you rotate them in. It's really as simple as that. And there was the one guy. Oh, trying to think of his name that we had at the end of the year
Oh,
on the
Togi.
defensive line. Toe guy, he started playing more
Yeah.
snaps. Guess what? Because he was just playing better than the other
Yeah.
guys. It's like the old 49ers running back room. You let the hot hand get the
Yeah.
ball more.
Yeah.
Toe guy just simply got more snaps because he played better. So that's why they don't need a Walter Nolan, or they're not going to go get a
Yeah.
Milton Williams, or maybe they'll go for if Alexander's being serious and they're going for Jonathan Allen. Maybe they're changing their philosophies. Maybe,
Mhm.
but at the same time, they're just playing. They're like if you're playing with more effort and better pad level, you're holding your ground, or if your win rate keeps popping as a pass rusher, you're gonna get more snaps, and then they'll rotate from there.
Yep. All right, I think we can do something fun here because I think what we should do. Let's go through just free agency kind of predictions. Let's go we can go 3 signings. We can go just different positions. So we can go. Let's go interior offensive line, interior defensive line, receiver. So we can go three spots. Name like a guy that you think is like a realistic possibility. You don't have to.
Oh, you gotta give me a second here. I
got you.
gotta look at
I
the
got you.
receivers.
I got you. I actually I did a prediction the other day, so I kind of have my names in mind. Um, I'll let you go first, though. I'll let you go first. I'll let you get your guys.
No, no,
You
no,
want me
no,
to go
no. You
first?
go first.
I'll go first. I'll
Yeah,
go first.
please.
Okay. Defensive tackle. I think Sheldon Rankins is going to end up here. To be honest with you, I think that makes a lot of sense. I know Malik Collins got cut today too, which that could be another interesting one. Like we're just going to bring back the crew. But I would like Malik Collins back as well. I think he played well. Receiver. I think they're gonna make a signing at receiver. I'll go Mac Hollins because I know he's kind of a name that I've seen people kind of throw out. He could bring some outside depth. He's a good blocker. Could do, he's solid for Buffalo this season. He can do a little bit of everything. So I think that's a name that could make a lot of sense for the Texans. Maybe Demarcus Robinson as well. One of those two guys I could see ended up here kind of as some depth and could play. Well, your draft pick maybe needs to get some more reps. He needs to work into the offense. And then you want to go interior offensive line. I'm talking about Zeitler so much I won't go with Zeitler. I'll go Macari. I'll go Macari. I think that's a realistic option. I think he's a younger guy. He does have some versatility as well. He can play tackle, guard. And Baltimore's a team that, the Texans have gotten their ass kicked by for 2 years now. So I think adding a lineman from that scheme, I think people would be pretty happy about that. I think that would work. I think safety, honestly, I know people have talked about the Niners guy. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But I'm telling you,
The guy that Murray ranks
yeah,
better than?
I'm telling you right now, I would be shocked if the safety signing wasn't Eric Murray. I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked if it wasn't Eric Murray.
He's gone. If he's gone, I don't know what I'll do. It's like as bad as Andrew Beck being gone.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how we would. I think we would lose reputation. Like we would be. It would be bad if Eric Murray.
Well, what if he gets a bag? What if he gets like a
And I'd be
2-year,
very happy.
$14
I would
million
be
deal?
great. What if what would be an interest? What if he went? What if he went to Kansas City and just kicked our ass? That would be
They put their safeties in good
karma for
spots.
90% of the fan base. That would absolutely be but I don't know.
I'd be okay with that.
Someone has to take MJ Stewart's
Well,
spot.
MJ
I
Stewart
think
doesn't necessarily have a
he's just
spot.
special teamer, really.
Brandon,
I think
special
they'll
teamer.
draft a safety or just re-sign MJ Stewart.
I think you draft a safety because more so just because of Jimmy Ward.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and the way
like
that it's been
Kalen Bullard,
reported by
like,
reporters,
you don't have much of a future.
the reporters don't seem shocked if Eric Murray or not Eric Murray, who are we talking about? Jimmy Ward. They don't seem like it would be surprising at all if the Texans just moved on from Jimmy Ward. Coming up here soon. I think they'll probably keep him, but it also wouldn't be shocking if they moved on.
Yeah, because when you play that many limited snaps, you're probably not feeling like you miss much.
Yeah,
and you also have the cap space. It's just kind of simple.
For sure. And
all right, so my turn.
Yep. Go ahead.
All right. So interior offensive lineman. I think I'm gonna go with the older guy in Zeitler.
Oh, there you go.
I don't think that, and that's also because with the way the market might go is maybe Will Fries gets a lot of money. Maybe James Daniels ends up getting a lot of money. I don't think Zeitler is going to be signed in the first wave. And I don't think the Texans are looking to sign an interior guy within the first wave either. Mm-hmm. So that would make a lot of sense. And then I think that they were, if the reports are true, they would simply probably draft a lineman within the first 2 rounds, maybe the third. But it kind of feels like they're going to do it in the first 2 rounds at this point. The receiver, I'm really kind of shook on receiver. I don't think they're gonna go big. I would really like Elijah Moore, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. And so, I mean, I don't think they're gonna look for a backup slot.
Yeah, I think they're cool.
But I could see them going
I think
for
they're good with John Mechie being the backup slot.
yeah. So I'm gonna try to narrow it down between like Josh Reynolds,
Yeah, that's a good name.
Demarcus Robinson. Um, I just think Mac Owens. Why would he leave Buffalo? He seems like a
Yeah,
perfect
that's true. That's
Buffalo
fair. That's
Bill.
fair. Noah Brown would be a guy that I'd want back if he was willing to leave
Yeah.
Washington, but I don't think he's going to leave Washington. So
Yeah. And then Nick Westbrook Akina
yeah, yeah,
would
he's a
be
good one.
someone I think could make a lot of sense based on just he's had his ups and downs against the Texans, like just literally going up against them. He's flashed too, and he's a bigger guy. So I think that's something that can make a lot of sense as a backup receiver. And then tier defensive line, it's gonna be Sheldon Rankins. I'm sorry, I'm taking the easy way
Yeah, yeah.
out.
I
It's
think
gonna be
it'll be
Sheldon
Rankins too.
Rankins. No one be surprised by that, please. He didn't really play too much in Cincinnati last year. Wasn't as productive when he played. He had the illness, whatever happened there. Makes too much sense for him to come back to Houston. You already have reports about it, so I think that is just probably already set in stone. And when does free agency start? 11 a.m.
Yeah.
our time, Central
Well,
time. He's
technically,
going to be a Texan at 11
Rankins
a.m.
can sign whatever because he got cut. He's a free
Oh,
agent now, so
yeah,
they could literally right as we're recording this, they could announce that he got signed. But
yeah. I think
they
Westbrook is
probably want to wait.
under. Yeah,
You know, I would assume that they kind of have a deal done. They probably want to wait and see how the free agency market kind of falls and what they can do cap space wise. There's not a big rush to make this type of move because not that
no,
Sheldon Rankins is bad or anything, but there's not like a huge market for him. I don't think. They could
no.
be patient with this. They don't have to rush.
I think for like unfortunately the Texans are just probably not going to do much on Monday.
Yeah, I don't
They
think
might not do
so
anything
either.
until Thursday
I
or
don't think
Friday.
so either.
I mean, you're
I
going to see re-signings
I do
on
think it's
Monday.
possible they could make like one or two outside moves. You know, maybe a backup corner. I do think it's possible that a
Yeah,
guard is signed the first day. Not that I think it's probable, but I think if you go Makari or you go, if it's Zeitler, like you said, if it's Zeitler, it's probably not day one. I don't think Zeitler gets signed day one. But if it's a
no.
Makari or a James Daniels or someone like that, I could see it being the first day. I'm more interested to see where these kind of Texans targets, who's still on the board after tomorrow, and where guys end up. Like I'm interested to see where Stephon Diggs ends up, even though I don't care where. Like it's not going to come back. I'm just interested to see where he ends up. And I think
Yeah, tomorrow's fun.
we may see some roster moves. Like you said, Titus Howard is still
More
on
structures.
the
Yeah,
he's kind of on the cusp of like, are we moving on? What are we doing? We can see restructures, um, stuff like that. It'll be an interesting day for sure.
yeah, and I hope the Texans do value the underrated guys. I agree with Stressens. I would say he's probably one of the more underrated. Bigger boundary receivers. Not that like they're going to necessarily look to even start him. Quite frankly, I don't think there's really any outside receiver they can sign with the cap, of course, with cap space they have right now, and say, okay, you're starting, a receiver next year. No, they're probably gonna have to draft a Z receiver. They already have their X and
Yep.
Nico, and then if Nick Cassero hears my magical plan about Donovan Jackson, Tunsil, and DK Metcalf, then maybe that happens. But otherwise,
Yeah, I don't think.
I think the receiver room is just going to be more about these are good football players, matchup based offense. I don't think they're too worried. But yeah, we do hear the Texans being involved in a lot of trade markets for receivers, and that would imply that they're looking to heavily upgrade, but you don't have to.
Yeah, and I think not necessarily that this wasn't the case before, but I think they were looking to at least get a quality second or third receiver in this free agency, and they've already done that. So, they can still draft a guy at
Yeah,
25 if they want. You could wait. You could get Jaden Higgins, um, Isaiah Bond is an option at the Z in like the third round. Kyle Williams is a guy that I know a lot of people really like, including myself. And yeah, Stressens, like we talked about, Demarcus Robinson makes a lot of sense.
right.
Um, he,
Yeah, he lit like Callie knows him. They're very comfortable with giving him. I don't know. I'd say he had even shot play. He had shot plays
yeah,
set
he did.
aside for him. And the Rams. He's not even like the fastest guy. He just kind of gets open. He does well. Operates efficiently. And then you could also just see Robert Woods
Yeah, I think
back
Robert
for
Woods
one
coming back
more year.
is like
One
I
more
think I
year.
said it today in the chat. I was like, I guarantee you, our first move is going to be re-signing like a Robert Woods or an Eric Murray. And people are going to be like, "What are we doing? We're wasting all our cap space again." But um, you know, that's how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna like see a move where like the cap space feels like it's gone. I feel like it's just
Yeah,
gonna be
I
throughout
don't
the
think so
offseason.
either.
We're gonna have to do like little tweaks to contracts, stuff like that. Just kind of make a little more cap space for each guy, and then you get because they're not gonna make a big move other than DK Metcalf. That would really be
Yeah,
it.
that would be the big like potential move that they could make, which I don't think they're going to make. So
Which I don't even think's gonna happen. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah.
I don't really think DK cares about being on a contender. It's we literally saw it with Miles Garrett today. He just like whoever offers us the most money, he's going to want to go there, and like, the Texans are going to be the
Yeah,
team
you
to
would
do
really
that.
think that he would just want money and to be a wide receiver one.
Yeah, which the
Like,
Texans
why
are
would
not the option for
the
that.
Texans? Oh no, like that doesn't. Yeah, it makes no
Well, like I said,
sense.
it is honestly, it is a encouraging thing when you talk about players wanting to come to Houston. That's fun. Like last offseason, you
Yeah,
got Stephon Diggs to take a smaller role to play with CJ Stroud, and this offseason you have DK Metcalf wanting to do the exact same thing. Like that says a lot about the how much the
Saquon
league
Barkley.
likes Stroud and how much they think the off really it does kind of say to me that they're like the Texans offense at fault was Bobby Slowick. The league's kind of already said that, but
Yeah.
that pretty much is what.
No one in the league thinks that CJ Stroud, fell off or anything like that. I think it's very, very clear. And then yeah, Brandon seems very more likely that receiver and O line in the first rounds makes sense because the scheme does not require an elite safety,
Mhm.
though I think they might have one in Kalen Bullock. And it doesn't require an elite defensive tackle because of how productive they get their, one techs and their three techs and they rotate them and they find the hot guy. There's no reason to do it, but also it could be fun to see them go a different direction. Really, it's not like a bad way to go about it, I
Yeah,
guess. You
yeah.
can't really go
No,
wrong.
I agree. Like we talked about, they don't necessarily need it at Walter Nolan, but if they took Walter Nolan at 25, I wouldn't be upset. Like I, I think Walter Nolan's a damn good
Yeah,
player, so I wouldn't be mad about it. It
right.
just probably like isn't the most like that wouldn't be my pick, but I could understand why like you if you really want to change your philosophy and add a defensive line room, that's a
Yeah,
way to do it because that guy is he's very very good. Um, Funny to me that people act like DK Metcalf has all this leverage. I don't really see why he not because I get why like he has to sign a contract, but I think most of the contracts are going to be around the same level. Like they're going to be whatever the best return is for Seattle is probably what it's going to end up being because I'm sure the Chargers, like Panthers, Patriots, they're all going to offer him like around the same amount of money
yeah,
the same years.
he should be happy about that, but
Yeah,
I don't know. He's just trying. I mean, maybe he's trying to piss the Jaguars off by saying he wants to go to the Texans or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I don't believe him.
yeah.
I really
I don't
I
know.
don't.
I don't know. The whole like the Texans being interested in him too felt like an agent ploy. It felt like they wanted to get like teams more interested. Like we're going to throw this team out there, and we know
Yeah,
they're aggressive to go like make moves like this. So we're going to throw their name out there, and hopefully, other teams feel like more desperate about it. I don't know. DK never felt like a realistic target. Like, I put it on. I did my realistic receiver list, and Christian Kirk was the second guy on it. The top guy was Devontae Adams, who I never really thought was that
good
realistic
job.
because I think he's just going to follow Aaron Rodgers more than likely. But Christian Kirk was literally like the best case situation for this team. He's not super expensive. He's cheaper than what you would pay for Stephon Diggs, and he gave up a future seventh. And I think he's younger than Stephon Diggs. And then his injuries, whether they're an issue or not, like a broken collarbone is not going to hurt him physically like this season. It's not going to slow him down. Where like Stephon Diggs at 32 with a torn ACL could slow him down. You don't know. So
Could. But I mean, you never know with injuries. I get a little concerned on some players. Then they just kind of ends up not
yeah,
ever
yeah.
really being a factor these days. So it's a weird thing. It affects contract value sometimes, sometimes not. So it's just kind of a situational thing. I think at the end of the day, Christian Kirk has a very good chance to be productive in the slot and very likely will get 1,000 receiving yards. Now, will he play every single game? I don't know, but if he plays every single game, he probably will have like 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards. something like that.
Yeah, no,
I think it's
and
going to be a
I
really good
completely
season
agree
for
with you. He
him.
was by far the best value option, I thought, as well. And if the
I don't even know if he was going to get that much money in free agency if he went to
yeah,
free
yeah, yeah.
agency.
I'm interested to see what his
Yeah.
extension is because I have no issue with the Texans paying him, 2, 3 years into the future. Like I am very confident he's going to be a good receiver for this team. I can confidently say that. We've watched him against us the last like 3 years, and he's killed us every single time. So
He ended Tavier Thomas's
yeah,
career.
and then even this year, I
Flat
know
out ended.
Lawrence missed him, but he runs like the double move on Bullock, and he's gone. It would have been like a
Yeah.
7 yard touchdown, and Lawrence overthrows him. So I mean,
Uh,
there's Christian Kirk, like you said, like we said earlier, he can play that Diggs role, but he also has more juice than Diggs has. Um, there's more explosiveness. He can actually get deep and he can make plays down the field, which is not something Stephon Diggs was going to do.
and it's nice to have like just a slot too. Like I think with Diggs, you were kind of trying to move him around the
Mm-hmm.
field, and in some spots he would separate, in some spots he wouldn't separate. He actually separated really well from the slot. But so this could really allow them to say, okay, what do we want to do with the other outside receiver? Do we want to just get like a really good separator in the draft that has positional versatility? Do we want a bigger body receiver to have two big guys and Nico and him, and then just have Kirk in the slot? So
Yep.
kind of gives you a little bit of leeway, and I think it's a good situation to have. Is having a good slot, it just feels so refreshing. I don't know, and he's a deep threat too. He's a good route runner. He's a good deep threat. I had some drops, and I don't love to factor in drops too often, especially when it's a receiver that literally gets 1,000 yards, can
Yeah,
have
I agree
games of
with that.
150 yards when he's on top of his game. Like it's hard to truly factor in drops, and people just like to hate on that. But even when I'm like scouting college receivers, like I'll see a couple of drops, but at the end of the day, I'm like, he was open. Like it's not going to happen all the time, but he was
Mhm.
open, and I value separating over drops and explosion. And Kirk's got that. I'm not really concerned about any of that. So I think that's a good spot to be in.
Agreed. And I like Kirk. He's an A&M guy. I remember watching him and Kellen Mond back in the day. What a team! And you talk about Josh Reynolds. There's another guy. We're just gonna assemble the A&M receiver room. We just need Mike Evans. Um,
Oh hell no!
but
Now we need to get that Cole out of the locker room.
um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like, and I think this free agency is going to go well for the Texans. Um, there's a lot. There's a lot of options out there, and there's not that many needs on the Texans roster because they've done a good job really going into free agency. They've made the two biggest moves that they had to make, which was cutting Shaq Mason
Yeah.
and getting a second receiver, which is Christian Kirk. So yeah, they're in a good spot.
Mm, yeah. All right. Well, I think this probably kind of wraps
Yeah,
everything together. I think maybe we should do this again after like one of the bigger moves comes up because we know like some guys are going to be re-signed on Monday. You might see some other stuff on Monday or Tuesday. But once we have a better idea of what their plan is, philosophy
yeah,
is, or
I agree.
if they filled a need, like we will 100% be back on here talking about this, and I think that would be good to just kind of get a nice full perspective on the team.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get. Like you said, even tomorrow, even if they don't make any big signings, we'll probably have a better idea of what the plan is. I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
get reports from people like the Texans have interest in this guy.
your Dove Cleveland's going to be very active.
I don't even think
All those
I don't think I follow
aggregator
him
accounts.
anymore. I think I did, but he made me too mad. I had
You're missing out.
to. um,
Yeah,
I
we'll
we'll,
see
we'll,
some
be- we'll, be,
stuff.
we'll be tuned into NFL rumors, uh, ML
Oh
football.
God. Oof.
um,
Yikes.
but yeah, we'll Texans didn't trade. Oh yeah. This is something that I talked about all last offseason. The first day, I remember people lost their minds over that first day. People were so mad. And it ended up being a great offseason. You
God.
know what honestly the worst decision the Texans made on day one was? Letting Cameron Johnston go. The worst decision that they made. Out of all the moves that they made on that first day, yes, that was the worst one. That was
Oh,
the worst decision that they made, unironically. That's it.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you on the Tommy. I don't know why everyone hates Tommy Townsend. I think he's the. I think
I
he's a
just
good punter.
I think his numbers are okay, but he just shanks a lot of punts. Like there's a lot of that like are really bad punts, which is I don't
No,
know. It's he's just inconsistent. I don't hate Townsend, but I loved Cameron Johnston. That guy was on the agenda.
he was. He was good.
I
Oh
know. Hey, you were talking about bringing back defensive tackles, by the way. Khalil Davis, also a free agent. We need to bring him back. All right,
man.
my guy
There you
Khalil
go.
Davis,
Now we're
free
talking.
agent target, free agent target, and Noah Brown, so we can get all my guys back. We can bring back the crew that was on
Oh,
my
man.
agenda.
Yeah, I would prefer
All
Noah
right,
Brown
well,
over Robert Woods again, but we'll
I
see
need
what happens.
to. All right, well, we appreciate all y'all for tuning in. It looks like we got almost 700 viewers that came through here. That's awesome. We appreciate all the support y'all have showed on the series. Like we said, we're probably going to come back on here at some point during free agency, kind of discuss moves that are being made, and maybe we'll even be able to like break news during the middle of an episode, which could be kind of fun. We could just kind of break it down. But we appreciate all the support, and we will see y'all next time.